Hi, my name is Emmanuel Mercado, and I'm here with Héctor Hernández, director of the program of LTM, and we have the pleasure to have here in the Studio A from Campus Querétaro. We are with Josh Rogosin, and we are very happy to have you here to chat about some topics that we are going to ask your perspectives, and we are going to also talk about the musical industry or the creative industry in general. And so, yeah, this is like, I don't know, I get nervous when I'm talking in front of cameras.
Of course. Yes. Hola. Buenos dias.
So if you can tell us like a brief, I don't know, a brief introduction about yourself.
Sure. Okay. Yes. Josh Rogosin. You got the name and the pronunciation correct. Lo siento. I wish my Spanish was good, but it's not. I'm still working. But I started my journey in music and creativity because my parents were musicians, and my dad conducted for Johnny Mathis. My mom was an original Musketeer in the 1950s. So I always try to remember where I came from, and they inspired me to have music in the house all the time. And when I was about 12, I started playing guitar and writing my own songs and recording them on a little 4-track recorder that my parents bought for me for a birthday present, and some studio time. That's when I really decided, oh wow, I like the technical aspect of music. So I went to college, Ithaca College, upstate New York, and studied communications.
Yeah.
Yes. LM right here.
LC.
LC, communications, of course. LC. And so I was a communications broadcast production major in television and radio, but I went to Ithaca College because they had a good theater school, because I grew up performing, and I thought, well, maybe I'll want to do theater professionally. And Ithaca also had a good communications school, the Roy H. Park School of Communications. They had a very good music school, which is what actually the college was founded and started as a music school. And I thought, well, I'll figure out what I really want to do once I get to school. And the more I sort of got into it, I decided that I loved the sort of behind the scenes technical aspect of learning how to operate cameras and edit analog tape and use outboard gear to fix audio. And I just knew I loved sound, so I didn't want to limit myself. And that's something that I would recommend to any student. Never limit yourself in terms of what you want to do. So I knew I wanted to do sound, but I didn't care if it was for theater. I didn't care if it was for television. I didn't care if it was for radio, or it could be for podcasting. I just wanted to do sound. So I never limited myself. And after I graduated from college, I ended up taking a job running the soundboard for the Shakespeare Theater in Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. And I would, mix 8 shows a week, usually playing back a bunch of music cues and maybe once in a while a wireless mic or two with a ghostly sound of one of Shakespearean's characters. And I learned pretty quickly that I didn't want to do 8 shows a week. Once you get past the production phase of learning the job and what you're going to do and all the cues you have to learn how to play and mix, then it's the same thing every day. Yeah. So I walked by NPR on my way to mixing shows at the Shakespeare Theater in Washington, D.C. And I said, I used to listen to NPR, the National Public Radio of the United States, on my way to driving to college. It was one of the few times where I was just stuck in my car for 8 hours, and I would turn on the radio dial after I was bored with all the CDs and tapes that I was playing in my car. And I thought, wow, I should go into NPR and see if they need any audio engineers. This big, beautiful building in Washington, D.C. And I walked in and asked for a tour, and they didn't have any tours that day. So I said, what about job listings? And at the time, there was like a pamphlet that they had in the corner of the lobby. Flipped through it. There was something called Broadcast Recording Technician. And it said you needed 5 years broadcast experience. I had a little bit of broadcast experience at college, but not much. And I had about maybe a year experience just mixing live theater. And so I got I applied for the job. I got a call maybe 2 months later, and it was summer, and they needed summer relief because at the time there were about 50 audio engineers working at National Public Radio, which was amazing. Now it's probably 15 because of the way producers took the jobs of audio engineers. Because technology got smaller and easier to use, and you don't have to use tape and all of these things. So I was lucky enough to get some backfill freelance work, and I thought, oh, this is really cool. And then they offered me temporary full-time, and then I had to make a decision. Do I leave the theater, or do I start doing this journey with NPR as a temporary full-time audio engineer? And I had a friend say, well, which one pays better? And I never thought of that before. And I was like, oh, that's right. That is a consideration. You need to earn money in this life. So it was very clear that NPR paid much better than the theater job. And it was also very clear that I was going to be working on all kinds of different content each and every day instead of the same show every night. So the decision was pretty easy to take that full-time temp job. I did some internship on a Broadway musical just to make sure. I didn't want to do sound for theater, and that sealed the deal for me. I'm like, I think I'd rather do broadcast. And that started an incredible career. For the next 15 years, I recorded and mixed stories that ended up on the radio. I actually mixed the broadcasts that would be on the radio live to the air on All Things Considered and Morning Edition that would be aired to millions of listeners all over the country. And got into something called radio expeditions, where I'd do these incredible field sound gathering recordings, learning different stereo sound gathering techniques to tell stories through sound. And 15 years into that, I ended up working at Tiny Desk and taking over for the audio engineering duties, and did that for about 10 years, which brings me to Campus Querétaro and this incredible caddy where I'm working with professors from, I think, 8 different campuses all over the country of Mexico, to inspire them to, add to their curriculum some techniques that I've learned in my career, capturing music as a journalist.
Amazing. That's an amazing career. And I think it's very inspiring because usually here when we get students, they come into the first semester with like some hopes and dreams, and it's always going to shape, like it's going to take a different form. You never leave your dreams, but they get shaped
morph,
into
yes,
something else through time and experiences. And I think we usually see people at their peak and see, oh, how did they do it? But through work and
yeah, work and time and just sort of taking what comes and not being too picky. I remember getting a job recording congressional hearings on Capitol Hill for transcription purposes, and I would record on cassette tape that we would just use over and over again and write down the first couple of words what the congressperson says and then send it off to the transcriber. And I still thought, hey, this is an audio job. I'm plugging in a cable into a mult box and I'm hitting record on something. and you never knew who you're going to meet in those instances working in these jobs that might not be your dream job. I didn't really record music professionally until I had been doing my career for 15 years already. And, when I was growing up writing songs and recording my own music, maybe I thought, oh, I'm going to be an audio engineer at a recording studio. But I'm so happy that I didn't do that, because I never would have worked on Tiny Desk if I hadn't done journalism first and made all of those contacts and connections. Mixing boring news radio ended up leading me to the biggest, most successful online music show in the world that I could help shape and create.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and it really is amazing because, for example, through all this stuff and through all these works, we have like this idea of being an audio engineer to just, press a button and record something. And we don't acknowledge like the work that is behind, and we don't know who may hear that and who you may inspire and who you may meet, for example. And I think that's it. That as an audio engineer or musical producer, I think that you have like a very heavy duty on turning things that happen physically in an environment and take all of that and get it to another platform for people to hear and to inspire, as you said.
Yes.
And well, the first topic that we want to talk about with you, we know that you've worked with many emergent artists, not only in the USA, around the world as well.
Yes.
And we like to know your perspective about the characteristics that a musical project must have to start growing and find an audience to begin with, and which steps should they follow in your perspective?
I think it just starts with making content that you feel good about, either as an artist, you feel like you want to make something because you have something to say, and as a behind the scenes person, capturing it in a way that rings true to you and your heart. I remember when I'm mixing something that I really love, my heart pounds like this. And that's how I know it's going to be really, really good. But that's just for me and my own passion and my own. And the only hope that you can do after that is that when you share it with the world, which you should do in any number of ways you can do these days, just hope that your audience can make that same connection to your content that you made yourself. Because if you don't like what you're making, if you're not in love with what you're making yourself, well, you have to make a lot of it to get to that point. You know, I think I recorded over 800 Tiny Desk concerts, but I'm only in love with maybe 200 of them. That means, so what is that ratio? You know, like that's a 25% batting average. So that means you need to make 100%. You know, to get that 25%, you have to work a lot harder, because a lot of it's not going to be good, and that's nobody's fault. It's just sort of, everything is so circumstantial. Like, what mood were you in when you recorded it? What mood was your artist in when they recorded it? Sometimes it's hard to write lyrics. Like, maybe the melody's great, but the lyrics aren't. Like, there's so many variables. But all you can do is put yourself to task and make a lot of work happen. And then maybe 1 out of 10 things that you worked on this year, you'll be like, that was amazing.
Okay. Yeah. And well, that's about, for example, the content that the artist made, and I don't know, they produced for themselves, maybe. It's talking about as an independent or emerging artist. But what about the external factors? For example, which role do the projects like yours play in those steps that you said?
You mean for the artists, or what do you mean?
Yeah, for the artists, like the exposition, the platform.
I just hope that it gives them an opportunity to find an audience that loves them as much as I love them. But it's difficult because there's a lot of content being made and put out there. So how do you find it? Yeah. And do you pay for sponsorship or whatever for content to get put in more people's feeds so more people see it? I haven't done any of that yet, because I want to see if it can just sort of happen organically. But I don't know. Right now, I don't really care about the numbers. I just care about making stuff that I love, that I'm proud of, and hopefully making a living doing it so that I can pay the rent. But I'm less concerned with, how many people it reaches. What I'm most concerned with is trying to make content that I can fall in love with. So if that leads to an artist being discovered, that's important to me, of course. Like, being in Chile, I found a bunch of artists that I love. Being in Mexico, I found a bunch of artists that I love. One of the first Global Sound concerts I recorded was with Andre Beltran and El Mulu in Mexico City, in this beautiful place. And I just loved his music, and I love the recording. And I hope it, even if it just reaches 10 people who decided to go to his Spotify stream, then I feel like it was a success.
Yeah. I think what you're doing, it's important because, as you said, you have this journalistic approach to music. and I value it a lot because right now we have so many tools, and I find that in the music production realm, we are trying to make these perfect productions, right?
Yeah.
We don't allow to have these mistakes, and it should like all sound pristine,
Yeah.
which I don't know what that means, but I find that sometimes we take the humanity
Out of
out.
it. Yeah, you can hear it
Yeah.
in recordings. It's so interesting. So at the Caddy that we just did yesterday, I was talking to Jared, who helped coordinated everything so masterfully, and there was this artist, Yorka, who we recorded, and we listened to their song Volera, and they played it for us live yesterday at the Museo Regional in Querétaro. And, you know, if you listen to the produced version, it's really incredible. It's very interesting sounding, and there's tons of electronics, and I think I only listened to it for maybe 20 seconds. I did, so this was a very quick take.
Yeah.
And it was nice, but after I had already heard what we captured at the Museo, it was just striking to me how much more humanity there was in the performance that we captured, and expression that was completely lost in the produced version. Not to say that they don't have each of them have their own place. I have enormous respect for studio production, all the magic that goes into it, and the incredible sounds that bombard you. But I much more resonate with the humanity of a performance that has nuance, that isn't auto-tune, that has some, warts, I suppose, is the best way to put it. And it also means that your artists have to be very talented in order to pull that off. So I have a pretty high bar. And, many of my recordings are not successful because of that reason. Hey, you might have I had a contest that I held for recording some musicians at the Sci Institute. And, maybe the contests, what they submitted was amazing because it was just like a 1 minute little clip, that they put on Instagram. And then when you go to record it in person, like, oh, we don't have that song, or, like, oh, but that's why I chose you. I wanted to hear that song, but well, we have these other songs. So it's very interesting to see. It's completely random what you're going to get, and that's why you just keep putting it out there, and once in a while you strike gold, but you're not going to strike gold if you don't try.
Exactly. Yeah. I love that because it's like when you go to a concert, right? Like some people say, well, if you have the album over on Spotify or whatever,
Yeah.
well, it's really different to be there live.
Live.
Because then you have the energy of the musician, and you get something else, and that's the human part. And I think in this day and age where we are like thinking about artificial intelligence and digital whatever, and there are 10 new tools each day.
Yes.
And what sells, like what strikes me, is the human part.
Right.
I don't know.
It almost, it's almost refreshing, I guess, with all the technology that's available, with a million different plugins, and everyone, students especially, just want to, well, I have it, so I'm just going to put it on and I'm going to use it. Whether it sounds good or not, who cares? This is what the professor said in the class, and they showed us some settings, and I'm just going to put it on everything now, instead of just being like, let's just start with just recording it well and getting the mic in the correct place and getting the gain structure proper, and then making it sound really good in the room. I love working with artists and telling them to balance their sound, and I don't allow them to use monitors or headphones, and it's a much different just way of recording art. Instead of immediately, okay, I've got my mix, I'm going to put on my headphones, I'm going to dial everything in, I'm going to add a bunch of effects so I get the performance. But if you strip it back to just like the pure essence, that's what resonates with me. That's not to say it's all subjective, so it's not to say there's a wrong way or a right way. It's just the way that I like to do it. And that comes from my journalism background too, of just trying to capture something as authentically as possible, and if it's good, then it'll hold up.
Of course, yeah.
Yes, as a musician, for example, yesterday, now that you say that you don't like to use, for example, monitors or something like that, I really experienced something different yesterday.
That's right. 'Cause you were playing piano.
Yeah, I was playing the piano, and it was my first time playing a Steinway piano.
Oh my gosh! Yes.
So it was like really challenging for me because I'm used to practice at my home
On a keyboard, maybe.
on a keyboard or a MIDI keyboard.
Yeah, not even with weighted keys, right?
No.
Yeah.
It's just like playing and with my headphones on and
Right.
with a metronome and the sequences.
Yeah.
And it was like very challenging for me to keep an eye on what I was playing, but also hearing my partner Cesper,
Yes.
which was
Cesper, that's right. And you were across the stage from each other. You didn't have a monitor wedge with his voice in it. So
Yeah, I didn't have it. So I was just like telling myself to, I don't know, just calm and feel like the emotion that the song was providing us and letting that happen, because I knew that the public was like, obviously, like it was like a quiet audience too.
yes, so you had an audience of maybe 20 professors, right?
Yeah, and all professors of my career.
Wow.
So it was
That's-
just like,
That's a little scary.
yeah, that pressure and all of that. But I was just concentrated on what my partner was saying
Wow.
at the song. While the song was playing, I was just thinking about the emotions, and I just kind of grooved with the
Yeah.
with the
Just
moment.
try to get enveloped by what's happening musically and get into the groove. And
Yeah.
that's really interesting. So if you had headphones or a monitor, I guess you would be able to hear much better.
Obviously,
And,
yeah.
but maybe some of the vibe and the energy would have been taken away by that technology. Maybe.
And that human part is, for me, like as Diana said, it strikes me a lot because it's powerful to get people and listen to that. And I have also a question. I've listened to some of your Global Sound concerts, which they are amazing, and I
Thanks.
think they really transport you to that feeling, to that human part of making music art. I wanted to ask you, what have the Global Sound concerts taught you? And I wanted to ask you too, if your view of the musical art has changed.
I think it's taught me that no matter where I go, there's going to be good music. It's just a matter of how to find it. So if I'm in Querétaro and I ask Diana, hey, we're coming to do this caddy, we need 5 musicians. So I really rely on people that I can trust who are there locally on the ground. Oh, you got to check out this artist. Oh, if we done this in Guadalajara, I know 20 artists that would have been amazing for this. Or, so really relying on your trusted friends and colleagues that you meet everywhere. But also, I've gone to places where I didn't know anybody, and I came up with this hashtag Global Sound Chile, and what was amazing about that is I found someone who made a video about my work on Tiny Desk, Vicente, and he runs Altarache Studios in Santiago de Chile. And I reached out to him and said, hey, you made that video and all these people liked it and shared it. I'm going to come to Chile and I need to find musicians. Do you think we can post, he's an Instagram wizard. That's an art form, right?
Yeah.
Do you think we could post a call for submissions of all the musicians of Chile, submit to the hashtag Global Sound Chile contest by uploading a 1-minute video with the hashtag Global Sound Chile, and it blew up. We had maybe 900,000 views, 6,000 people shared it, and the hashtag had over 1,000 entrants, and that blew me away. Just the power of social media. And this was not a sponsored ad or a clip or anything like that. It was purely organic because of my history, of course. That helped a lot. But it was also just a wonderful thing to realize that you can create a whole community of artists looking at each other's submissions, saying, oh, wow, look at what they're doing, looking at what they're doing. That was to me even more rewarding than going to Chile and making the recordings, was the community it created. So in answer to your question, what I've learned is that there really is wonderful music as well as terrible music everywhere. So even here in Querétaro, yesterday blew my mind. We had somehow Diana figured out how to get 5 artists to come to a specific location on the same day in Querétaro, which is not the biggest city in Mexico. And somehow we had 5 talented artists come and share their art with us for an opportunity for the professors at Tec de Monterrey to learn about some of my experience and techniques and skills, and hopefully apply it to their curriculum to inspire the students who come, who might want to make some content that isn't to replace what's happening in this beautiful studio, but to augment it and to give artists an opportunity to share their art in a parallel but a unique way, so that their fans can hear them in a different way, hear the songs in a different way, which we certainly experienced yesterday with Yorka. But also, to recognize how our media landscape and how people consume media. Most people consume music through YouTube. It's not Spotify. It's not Apple. So there's the importance of adding a visual component for the LTM students is, I think, sorely underrepresented and needs to be heavily emphasized in today's media consumption landscape. So I appreciate very much. Obviously, tech is on the forefront of everything. We're recording a podcast and there's 3 cameras and lights set up. That's not how you record a podcast, guys. You record a podcast with 3 mics and it's just talking heads and you edit it together. And what are all these cameras doing here? Because you understand that people consume even podcasts visually because of YouTube. So it's important that that component is always added to every project, that even a music student, or a music technology student has to recognize that it's an important factor with Instagram and TikTok and YouTube Shorts, and not to replace what the album's doing on Spotify, but to supplement it and to promote it.
Yeah, I think that's really important for us to understand. I talk it a lot with my students regarding how do we collaborate and how our art evolves, right? Because as we get what we were talking about, like more tools and digital something and technology, we are relying more on videos and humanity. And I was just thinking about this experience with Tiny Desk and Global Sound Concerts and all of these people who participated and shared. They look up to this format, to this acoustic raw
Isn't
music.
that interesting?
Yeah. It's like, okay, so we want the studio version, of course, the edited version.
Which you spend months or years perfecting and creating and comping and overdubbing.
And then you want to go into that experience, right?
Yes.
So what the song that you played yesterday, Emma, with Cesper, you worked on it for several months. It was their final project of the career, and now they have embraced it and worked on it so much that they can go and play it raw in front of an audience, and they don't need their sequences and things. They just
bring it back down to the song. What does the song sound like without all of those distractions, I'll call them? But if it doesn't stand up in a very raw format, then anything you add to it in the studio isn't going to fix that. Is the song good? Like, that's where it has to start. So the work that I try and do tries to bring everything back to the bare essentials, including how to make a good recording. You can't replace, a good musician, first of all.
Of course.
You can't fix an out-of-tune guitar, really. Like, you really need to get it right at the beginning. And I think that's also what I really want to be teaching, is the importance of not fixing it in the mix, but fixing it in the production. And then that makes the mix just fun.
Yeah. And I think what Emma was saying about like the first time playing this piano without a monitor, that's mixing live, right? Because he had to play like quietly,
Yes.
louder enough.
You really
in
had to
order
key
hear.
into
Yes.
your vocalists.
Yeah, because I couldn't hear Cesar as well. For example, we have a band too, and we usually when we are rehearsing, we use all of that stuff, all the distractions.
A PA or at least headphones and you're dialing in your levels, and that's a perfectly lovely and valid way to do it. I'm not saying it isn't.
But yesterday was like a very different experience. I don't know, just like it's also a way of changing the things that you're bringing as a composer or as a musician. We have like this internal joke with my friends of the career, and while we are composing, we are saying like, no, this doesn't sound good. If I was a tiny desk, this wouldn't sound good.
Yeah.
So we have to.
That's really interesting.
We have to recompose. We have to make it more.
So that it would translate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that's right.
And that's because of the way that now people sees all of these videos and audiovisual content, and they want it. And as Diana said, they have the album versions, they have the produced versions.
Yes.
But if they are feeling like, I don't know, I want something more acoustic, more intimate, they usually just look up to all of these acoustic sessions.
Right.
And talking about this audiovisual content, and there's like this transformation of the world, and now, for example, the physical formats are disappearing. And we don't have like the CDs and vinyls just as much as we usually use them back in the 2010s or 2020s. I'm sorry.
Don't worry, that's what editing's for.
Yeah.
Yeah, back in the day.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
During the 2000s, and
The physical media has sort of gone away.
yeah, and in this world where physical formats are disappearing, what role does audiovisual documentation play? And how important is this type of music journalism that you're making?
I just love telling people stories, so having a visual component to that, like the whole purpose of Global Sound Concerts is to travel where artists are from. Okay. And to learn about that place through the music that they've been inspired to make. So I love choosing a location that might resonate with the artist. So when I went to an artist and I say, okay, is there a place that you grew up that means something to you and why you became a musician? I went to Richmond, Virginia, and I recorded Miss Jalen Brown. I met her at Berklee College of Music, and I said, you're fabulous. I love your voice. I love your songs. Where are you from? Oh, I'm from Richmond, Virginia. I grew up there my whole life. I said, I'm going to come visit you in Richmond, and I would love to record your music because I love it so much. Can we find a location that resonates with you and growing up there? She said, oh yeah, Carytown's this like cool area where I used to hang out in high school, whatever. And there's this really cool vintage music store there with tons of vinyl and stuff on the walls. And there's so much history. And I've even played, an in-store concert there. I said, perfect. Can we get permission to record there? So we set up a 3-piece, her drummer, a keyboard player, she plays guitar, and she sings amazing. And we made this little concert in the record store that she grew up in. So I felt like we were learning a little bit about, the history of Virginia, of Richmond, and this neighborhood of Carytown, and this artist who was born there. And her inviting her friends and family showed up for her performance, so it kind of added like a little story. So it wasn't just about, oh, wow, here's a cool artist. behind the same desk as the other artist, which I think is also amazing in its own right. I liked having a little bit more meat on the bone in terms of like, who is this artist and why she is in this store? And it's so cool that, her families are so, to learn about this place and these people through their music. So I think that's really the intent of the work that I'm doing now, is like traveling to a location and learning about that location through the music that's made there.
That really resonates with me because, at the Caddy, you were saying that you were inspired by the home concerts when
I did. Yes, exactly. That's exactly right.
And I thought about the Silvana Estrada's home concert. She recorded in this space where it's her house, and I think it's his dad's atelier, like where, because he fixes instruments.
Okay.
So
was it in like multiple locations in her house?
It was like her house, and she was walking around.
I remember. Really well done.
She had a really cool production where she walked, and all the musicians were there.
Amazing.
But it was her house, and it resonated with me because I'm from the same hometown, and I love her music. And it brought something else, like her being at her house, playing her music with this instrument that her dad made.
Especially during the pandemic when everybody was home. So the context was really interesting too.
Yeah.
So I liked rolling with that idea of like, wow, I kind of want to go where these people are and see what that's like, to get the other sort of end of the spectrum. It's like the opposite of Tiny Desk is showing up to where their little desk, Yeah. And that's what the home concerts forced us to do, but it was like a happy accident.
Yeah, and
the most successful Tiny Desk is actually Dua Lipa home concert.
Yeah, it blew up.
Yeah, and I thought about what a producer does, because here, when people come and ask, like, what does a music producer do? And I'm like, so
where do we begin?
Like, so it's everything and anything. That's my answer.
Yeah,
because,
anything and everything.
We do a lot of things. We do audio engineering, but we also should have this art sensitivity
and ideas
and be able to conceptualize something.
That's exactly right.
I know that for the home concerts, you were not there to record the concert,
correct,
but you gave some instructions. And doing that conceptualization of this idea, what it should accomplish, what this project should accomplish, I think in some cases it nailed it, right? So it should be a space that means something to you, and you have these musicians who play with you, who are important for you, right? So I think that's a big part of music production, because plugging the cable and clicking record, and it's not hard to do, but knowing why are you doing it, who's this person, what's the story, I think that's
the context adds a lot of dimension to something that most people could just learn over time with just watching or reading or watching YouTube videos or whatever. That's, I wouldn't say the easy part. None of it's easy, but that's the part that anybody could learn. But how do you learn the interpersonal skills? How do you learn to tell a story? How do you learn to give something meaning and context? That's much harder to teach. That's something you just have to be using your imagination, and hopefully, you can get good at that, and being creative in a way, and just trying stuff that might not work, and not being afraid that you might fail. And when you do fail, thinking, it's okay. And that wasn't the best, but who cares? We'll make more tomorrow.
Yeah, and having that background with the artists having the audience at their houses or their homes, I don't know, it's really different, because you see an artist at a concert, or you see them, I don't know, performing live, and you don't get to see the real person behind the character. So for me, for example, the home concerts was like a very good way to have like this context of the artist, and getting to know a little bit of the lives.
Yeah, and also just conceptually, like if they decide to be creative and do something different, to see like the choices that they made spoke a lot to who they are, because for once they didn't have to just sit behind a desk and play. They had to just say, okay, how are we going to do this task of recording something organic and stripped down and authentic? And you have J Balvin, who has a drone over freaking the East River of New York City with tons of auto-tune and didn't really get the assignment. And then you've got like Mon Laferte, who records it in this beautiful church in Mexico, 9 months pregnant, which felt very authentic and beautiful and real, with all these acoustic musicians who I thought did a masterful job.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Josh, for talking to us about all of these projects. I think, well, here at Tech, we have this huge task of mostly inspiring, what you said, inspiring people, because there's no way we can provide all the knowledge.
No, not in, what is it, 8 semesters or?
Yeah.
No, all you can do is, inspire and hopefully give some spark of creativity to all the students to be like, I'm going to try that because Josh came and gave a talk and that made me think I want to try something different and new. And if that happens to one student, then that means I did my job.
Thank you so much for that, for like taking this time. I know you left Tiny Desk and then you're here teaching us and doing all these things. And thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. I wouldn't want it any other way. I think I had reached my sort of like capacity of learning and growing. And so that's the other thing, is you have to navigate life in a way that's going to be inspiring and passionate. And for me, that's being here right now after having all the experiences that I've had. Now it's time to, let someone else create. And in addition to me as well, on my path of finding music and sharing it. That's just what I love to do.
Thank you for that, and thank you, Emma, for joining in this interview.
Thank you.
As a musician yesterday, that was amazing.
Thanks.
So, thank you all also for listening to us. And I don't know if you want to give a few words goodbye.
As a very recent graduate person, I'd like to thank you for all the knowledge and all of the things that you've shared with us during this time. I know that it's really difficult for me at this time to find like a certain path or a certain way to get my dreams or my goals done. But I know that you have to put much effort for that.
Yeah, and just say yes to every opportunity, even if it doesn't sound like the right fit, if it means that you're gonna, help someone on a sound project for free, or if someone needs you to run sound for a very boring talk at a convention center, or record congressional hearings for transcription purposes only, don't think, well, that's not my dream, so I'm not going to do that. So just say yes to everything.
Yeah, there are little steps behind the high steps. It's like
because you're going to meet people on those little steps, and that's really the key, is that people will remember you and they'll say, oh yeah, I remember that person, they're there and they're available, so I'm going to reach out to them the next time I need something. And it's all about cultivating those relationships, even if it has nothing to do with your career. It might just turn into something that you could never expect.
Yeah, and I think that's amazing, and that's part of the way of a musical producer or a recording engineer.
Yeah.
But thank you so much, Josh.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, thank you all. And we are here at Centro de Medios, Tec de Monterrey, Campus Querétaro. And see you in the next one.